Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leather Supply, and this is the Leather Element. If you've got a good question for us or a good idea for a leather element, drop it in the comment box below. Also, if you want to know when our videos release, just click your notifications. You'll know exactly when these come out. So how about a shop tricks? Let's see if there's something in here that's going to help us out in our shop. Now we're going to make an addition. We're going to do a throwback trick or tip. It's something that we've seen, but we either get a lot of questions on this or it's important enough to bear repeating. So let's step over here, see if I can help. Let's start with our throwback tip. We're going to need this information here in just a minute, but we get so many questions on this, and belts, they are such a staple in our shop. So how do we get a belt to fit perfect each time, every time? Actually, it's not hard at all. We're going to use what's called a shorty, not an industry term by any means. It's just what I've called these in my shop for years and years. Well, let's start here. We need a good waist size. Now, if we're lucky enough to have someone in our shop, we can get them to put on a size belt. All I've done here is I punched and marked in 1-inch increments starting at my buckle. Someone can put on this belt and we know exactly what their waist size is. So let's use me as an example. I'm a 35-inch belt, okay? Let's add 9 inches to the waist size. That's 44. That's going to give us our belt blank. That's the strap we need to cut for our belt. Okay, here's how this works. So notice I've got 2 red lines here. That's where I want my buckle to land. For my customer or friend or family member, I want them in the second hole. That gives them room to come in and ample room to go out. And then on this end, we've simply got the bend back. So that 9 inches, 6 inches, plus 3 inches, plus our waist size, we're going to have a belt that fits perfect every time. So when we cut our blank, I'm a 35-inch waist. I need a blank that's 44 inches, 35 plus 9. So when I cut my blank, I'm going to scoot to one end. I'm going to mark my size holes, scoot to the other end, mark my size holes. It's going to fit perfect every time. This is not going to work on every pattern, but oddly enough, it works on most. Here's where we're going with this. So we've recently done a video on the hip pouch. Well, this is the prototype. I always make one before the video. To me, it's just too small. That pocket isn't going to hold much. Right there, I'm too close to the edge, my stitch line with my zipper. So I want to increase the width on this, but also let's add a little bit of length. Well, I've got a pattern. All my curves are right. All my measurements are good. Do I have to go all the way back to the drawing board? No, we don't. Let's do this. So right here, this is the final outcome. I've added 1/2 inch to the width and 1 inch to the length. Here's how we did this. So let's take our pattern. I always start from a center line. Here's another place that center line is going to be a big help. Let's just split our pattern right down the middle, okay? With our poster board, how much width do I need here? We're going to go 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take this piece, let's lay that right in there, and let's just tape that in. And we've got our width. Well, that's easy enough. Now it's a little bit of a flimsy pattern. What I'll probably do is now put this on a new piece of poster board, trace it out and mark my holes. So now we want to add some length. I want to add 1 inch length to this. Well, we had the opportunity to add that anywhere, but I like this curve where it is. So how about we do this? Let's come down to just above our straight section here, and I'm going to square on my center line. Good, let's cut. And then let's cut this side. Okay, with my poster board, I've got 1 inch right there. Let's tape that in. We've got that in. Let's trim that. And there we are. We've got a larger pattern. It took no time at all to do that. Now again, I'll probably tape this down and then trace this onto a solid piece because that is just a little bit flimsy, but it's so easy to do. Here's another question we get from time to time. What's a rivet back concho? It is the same thing as a screw back. We're just going to set it with a rivet as opposed to a screw. Now the upside to these, typically good quality and almost always just a little bit less expensive. We're not dealing with a screw. Now the downside to these, when we set them, they are there forever. Now I can't call that a downside honestly because I can't remember the last time I had to replace a concho. But if we do, what we're going to do is we're going to clip off that rivet cap. That's not going to leave enough throat there to reset this. I'm not going to throw that away. So here's an answer to that. Let's drill a hole right in the middle of that concho. Let's take one of our decorative cap Chicago screws and attach it like that. Most likely, I will never see that. And if I do, it's actually going to look like a concho with just a little bit more detail. Now, when we set these on our screw backs, we need a pretty good size hole, about 3/16, maybe 1/4 inch. Let's use a smaller hole here, because if we go with a big hole, when we try to set that, it's going to swim all around. We'll never get it centered, but over time, it's definitely going to move around and it's going to look terrible. So let's go with a smaller hole, much like we would use when we're setting a rivet. Now, we're not going to have an anvil for this. So let's take a piece of 8 to 9 ounce. I'm going to use that as my cushion. Let's drop a cap on that. Good. Now let's set it just like a rivet. And there we are. As easy as it is, and they look great. If we're going to build our own work table, and I highly suggest we do, it's a simple project, and we can make this fit just about anywhere. But there's something we've got to watch out for, and we wouldn't think about it until it happens. So we build our table, we're going to secure our tabletop down. Well, naturally, we're going to drop in screws around the border to secure that. But a tendency also is to drop in screws on our cross beams. I don't want to do that, because if we run across that with a knife, the knife is shot. In fact, it's hard to do now, but the first time we cut, we're going to go right across that. So let's try this with a blade. I can hear it. I went right across that screw. That blade is absolutely shot. Now, with a box cutter, it's just irritating, because all I have to do is change out that blade. But if we've got an expensive round knife, that blade is shot. I hope there's something in here that's going to help us out in our shop, because the biggest point, let's enjoy every minute in our shop. And if we do, our projects are going to reflect that. Now, if we're happy with the outcome of our project, you know what? That just increases the joy in our shop. So I hope this is good information for you. Thanks for taking time to watch The Leather Element. Good luck with your projects.